Whispers in the abandoned Mercy Hill Hospital, where the dead still roam the silent, endless halls. Before we begin, I have one small request. If you want to support me and help this channel grow, please make sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon so you never miss any of our new horror stories. Now, let's begin. The wind howled through the skeletal remains of Mercy Hill Hospital, rattling broken windows and sending shards of glass skittering across the cracked linoleum floors. Alex Mercer stepped cautiously over debris, his flashlight slicing through the suffocating darkness. The stench of decay and mildew clung to the air, mingling with a faint metallic tang that made his stomach churn. Behind him, Jenna clutched her small pendant, muttering softly under her breath, while Marcus trailed, camera in hand, recording every step with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. "Feels wrong," Jenna whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind. "This place isn't just abandoned, it's alive." Alex scoffed, though the unease in his chest betrayed him. "Haunted, maybe, but alive? That's just theatrics. Let's keep moving. The surgical wing should be just down this hall." The hall stretched endlessly, the peeling wallpaper and flickering lights giving the illusion that the corridors bent and twisted with no regard for reason. Shadows seemed to pool in corners, refusing to disperse no matter where their flashlights landed. Somewhere deep within, a faint whisper echoed. It was soft at first, almost too delicate to hear, but unmistakably human. "Jenna." She froze, her eyes wide. "Did you hear that?" Marcus laughed nervously, adjusting his camera. "Probably just the wind." But the whisper came again, this time slightly louder, almost pleading. "Jenna." Jenna's hand shot out, clutching Alex's arm. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with terror. "It's calling me," she said, voice trembling. Alex's heart thumped, the rational part of his mind battling the gnawing sense of dread. "Stay close. We're almost to the surgical wing. Just keep moving." The hospital seemed to react to their presence. Doors creaked open on their own, and distant thuds echoed through the halls, like footsteps in a rhythm that didn't match their own. Marcus raised his camera, and through the screen, shadows seemed to dart just out of frame, silhouettes of people that weren't there when he looked directly. They reached the old reception area. A layer of dust covered the abandoned desks, and yellowed patient files littered the floor. Alex picked one up, the paper brittle in his hands. Names, dates, and strange notations, "Do not disturb," "Voices lure," were scrawled in hurried handwriting. The shadows behind the counter seemed to shift, almost watching them. Suddenly, the largest surgical light hanging from the ceiling above them swung violently, as if propelled by some unseen hand. Jenna shrieked, stumbling backward, and Marcus's camera shook in his hands. The shadows coalesced near the far end of the room, darker and heavier than before. And then a whisper, chillingly close, right in Alex's ear, called out his name. "Alex." The temperature dropped sharply, their breath fogged the air, and in that frozen moment it was clear the hospital was awake and it was aware of them. The three of them hesitated at the edge of the surgical wing, the faint hum of flickering lights above echoing through the cavernous space. The smell here was worse, a mix of disinfectant long gone rancid and something fouler, like rotting flesh. Alex's flashlight cut through the darkness, illuminating rows of rusted gurneys and shattered instruments. The air felt thick, heavy, as if it resisted their every breath. "Stay close," Alex said, trying to mask the tremor in his voice. "This wing, this is where most of the reports mentioned strange occurrences." Jenna's eyes darted nervously. "I can feel them," she whispered. "The patients, they're still here, trapped, watching." Marcus adjusted his camera, trying to capture the eerie glow of the decaying surgical lights. "Trapped spirits? Seriously? You're going full-on horror movie mode now." Before Alex could reply, a low, guttural moan echoed from the far end of the hall. Shadows seemed to stretch unnaturally along the walls, twisting like liquid in the dim light. The sound drew nearer, dragging a hollow cadence that sent chills down their spines. I think we should split up," Jenna said suddenly, her voice tight. "I can sense which way they're concentrated. I need to see it, to understand." Alex hesitated. Splitting up in an active haunted location was reckless, but Jenna's urgency was undeniable. Reluctantly, he nodded. "Fine, stay in sight as much as possible." Jenna moved silently down a narrow side corridor, her flashlight barely illuminating the cracked tiles. Alex and Marcus followed the main hall, their footsteps swallowed by the oppressive silence. That's when Marcus froze. Through his camera, he saw it, a shadowy figure hunched and twisted, standing in the corner of an empty room. Its head slowly turned toward him, but when he looked directly, there was nothing there. "Did you see that?" Marcus whispered, panic creeping in. Alex shook his head. "Just a trick of the light. Keep moving." But it wasn't just light. The hospital itself seemed to pulse with life. The walls whispered faintly, almost inaudibly, calling out their names. Alex heard it, his sister's voice, soft and pleading, echoing from the surgical wing. "Alex, help me!" He shook his head violently. "No, not real, not real," he muttered. Meanwhile, Jenna's own path led her to a ward filled with rusted hospital beds. The whispers grew louder, layered, almost like a choir of desperate voices. One bed, at the center, bore a strange marking etched into the floor, a circle surrounded by symbols drawn in what looked like dried blood. The air grew colder. Jenna felt a tug at her ankle as if an invisible hand tried to pull her into the circle. She screamed, spinning around, but no one was there. Back with Alex and Marcus, a sudden crash from down the hall made them both jump. The surgical lights flickered violently, then plunged the wing into darkness. The whispers converged into a chilling chorus. "Jenna, stay forever." Alex flicked his flashlight desperately, and through the gloom he saw the outline of Jenna being pulled backward, her body arching unnaturally as shadowy tendrils seemed to wrap around her. Marcus shouted her name, rushing forward, but a wall of darkness surged between them, cutting him off. The hospital had claimed her. Alex's heart pounded as he ran through the twisting halls, calling Jenna's name, but the hospital seemed determined to disorient him. Corridors stretched endlessly, turning back on themselves in impossible angles. Every door he passed led to rooms he didn't remember entering. The walls whispered incessantly, murmuring his name and mocking his panic. "Marcus!" Alex shouted, panic cracking his voice. "Where is she?" Marcus appeared from a shadowed doorway, camera trembling in his hands. His face was pale, sweat clinging to his brow. "I don't know. She's not here. And these hallways, they're changing. We keep coming back to the same place." The air was colder now, their breath fogging in front of them. Through the camera, Marcus caught glimpses of shadowy figures darting at the edges of the frame, humanoid yet grotesque, their faces distorted into permanent screams. One figure lingered just long enough for Alex to glimpse hollow eyes that seemed to pierce straight into his soul. Jenna's voice echoed again, fragile, terrified, and far away. "Alex, help me!" Alex pressed forward, desperate, and suddenly the hospital shifted again. A wall that should have been to his right now extended into a narrow passage lined with blood-streaked tiles. He stumbled but kept moving, driven by fear and determination. "I can feel them," Marcus whispered, almost to himself. "The spirits, they're feeding on our fear. They want us to panic." Alex shook his head, refusing to let the terror control him. "Then we have to stay calm. We have to find her." They reached the surgical wing again, but it was different now. Walls warped, floors sloping in impossible angles. The ceiling hung lower, and the lights flickered in rhythm with the whispers, casting long, distorted shadows that seemed to move independently. It was there, in the center of a massive operating theater, that Alex saw her, Jenna. She hovered slightly above the floor, suspended by invisible forces. Her eyes were wide, glazed, and her mouth moved silently as shadows swirled around her. Figures of former patients, twisted, hollow, and lifeless, circled her, their whispers merging into a deafening cacophony. "No!" Alex screamed, running toward her, but the shadows formed a wall, shifting and undulating, blocking his path. Marcus raised the camera, desperate to capture evidence, but the lens fogged over, as if the darkness itself resisted being recorded. A cold wind lashed at them, carrying 1,000 faint screams. Alex could feel the pull of the spirits, tugging at him, whispering promises of despair and madness. Then a voice, sharp and commanding, cut through the chaos. "Release them or join them." The words echoed in Alex's mind, and suddenly he understood. The hospital wasn't just haunted, it was alive, a cage for tortured souls, and the spirits were bound to it by unspeakable experiments conducted decades ago. The shadows weren't attacking out of malice, they were protecting their prison, and anyone who interfered risked being trapped forever. Alex knew what he had to do. He needed a way to free the spirits and save Jenna before the hospital claimed them both. Alex's hands shook as he rifled through the scattered papers and journals littering the floor of the abandoned surgical theater. Dust rose in choking clouds, swirling around the flickering lights above. At last he found it, a journal bound in cracked leather, the pages yellowed with age. The author, Evelyn, a nurse who had tried to stop the horrors at Mercy Hill decades ago. The writing was frantic, almost illegible in places, describing unspeakable experiments to capture the essence of the soul and prevent the dead from leaving the hospital. Evelyn had attempted a ritual to release the trapped spirits, but the forces were too strong. Alex scanned the pages, his mind racing. This was their only chance to save Jenna. Marcus stepped forward cautiously. "Are you sure about this? We don't even know if it works. We could—" "Die trying," Alex finished grimly. He clenched the journal, determination overriding fear. Better than leaving her for them. Following the instructions, they gathered objects from around the hospital: candles, rusted surgical tools, and scraps of cloth from patient uniforms. Each step was more perilous than the last. Shadows clawed at the walls, twisting into monstrous shapes, whispering threats and laughter that pierced their minds. The air grew icy, their breath visible in the darkness. Jenna floated in the center of the ritual circle, her body limp yet suspended, eyes half closed, lips murmuring incoherently. The spirits of patients circled her, their forms flickering like dying flames. Some pleaded, their faces filled with terror, others sneered, their mouths twisted into silent screams. Alex began the incantation, reading aloud from Evelyn's journal. The shadows surged, recoiling from the words as if in pain. A low, guttural wail rose from the walls, echoing endlessly, and the floor trembled beneath them. Marcus held his ground, swinging the camera like a shield, while shadows lashed at him, clawing at his skin. The whispers grew deafening, overlapping into a chaotic roar. Jenna's body convulsed, and Alex feared they might lose her, but he forced himself to focus. The journal's words formed a rhythm, and slowly the spirit's movements faltered. They hesitated, their forms flickering between the corporeal and the ephemeral. Suddenly, one shadow lunged at Marcus, and he screamed, vanishing into the darkness. Alex barely had time to react, his heart hammering, but he pressed on. The voices of the spirits rose in a final, anguished crescendo as he completed the incantation. A blinding light filled the theater, scorching shadows retreating into nothingness. Jenna collapsed into Alex's arms, unconscious but alive. The oppressive air lifted slightly, though the hospital still groaned and creaked, unwilling to release its secrets entirely. Alex helped Jenna to her feet, fear etched on both their faces. Outside the ritual circle, the hospital's hall seemed to stretch endlessly, but the malevolent energy had diminished. They ran, stumbling over debris, their flashlights guiding them through corridors that had once been impossible to navigate. As they burst into the night air, the wind whipping around them, the hospital loomed behind like a dark sentinel. Silence settled over the abandoned structure, but for a fleeting moment, Alex swore he saw a shadowy figure watching from a shattered window, its hollow eyes following them, as if Mercy Hill Hospital itself had not finished with them. They stumbled into the safety of the nearby woods, hearts racing, lungs burning, but alive. The whispers faded, for now, but the echoes of the dead lingered in their minds, a reminder that some horrors never truly leave. Alex and Jenna stumbled into the moonlit clearing outside Mercy Hill Hospital, their breaths ragged, hearts hammering in unison. The night air felt sharp, almost cleansing, but the oppressive weight of the hospital clung to them like a shadow. Jenna leaned heavily on Alex, shivering, whispering, "It's over, isn't it?" Alex glanced back. The massive, crumbling building loomed silently, windows gaping like empty eyes. For a moment, relief washed over him. They had survived, had freed the trapped souls, at least temporarily. Then, in the darkness of a shattered upper window, he saw it, a faint silhouette, watching. Hollow eyes reflected the moonlight, unblinking, unmoving, but unmistakably aware. A whisper slithered through the night wind, soft yet unmistakable. "You cannot leave, not entirely." Jenna gasped, clutching his arm. Alex swallowed hard, heart racing. The hospital didn't just contain the dead. It had a hunger, a lingering presence that refused to release its hold completely. With no other choice, they turned away, fleeing into the forest. Behind them, Mercy Hill stood silently, yet alive, its dark halls waiting for the next souls foolish enough to enter. The whispers had faded, but somewhere, deep within the endless corridors, the dead still roamed, patient and eternal. And in the distance, the wind carried their names.